Degloirespace signing in. I received an email. Let me read this one to you. Degloirespace. I have a question about religion. How does it fit into mindset? Which do you think takes priority? Religion or mindset? It's a dilemma I have sometimes. I feel held up by my current belief system that I grew up with. Very interesting. So, let's first dissect the issue here. Does mindset and religion, do they cross paths? Definitely. A big part of what you believe is going to affect how you act in your life, whether you take forward certain actions or not. Now here, when it comes to religion, people feel taboo. They feel, no, religion, you can't touch that. And this is where I challenge you and I say, nothing that's gonna go through these ears and this mind and this heart is gonna be left unchallenged. You must question your belief. When I say question, I don't mean like, be a prick about it or be offensive about it. You sit with these things and you see, how has it affected me? Do I actually believe this? Because you know what? We honestly forget sometimes that a big part of religion is about being honest. And honesty is a tool that helps you. Imagine you say something to me. For example, you say to me, God exists. Just one thing. Imagine as you're telling me this, I examine what you've told me, and I think, as I'm looking at the world, I feel like I don't actually believe. What should I do next? Should I lie to myself and say, because they told me and it's religion, I've got to not question it? Forget everything. You're just not honest. And apparently, as I know from all religions, they say to be honest. So you got to be honest with yourself. I mean, hey, religious people, you promote honesty. So let's be honest. And where better place to start than to be honest with yourself? You sit there and you say, you know what? Right now, I don't believe in God. You're being honest. Now, should you be conclusive? No, because we all know, and this is a big thing, we all know that nothing is conclusive. I might not believe in this right now, but later I might, or vice versa. I might believe in this now and then later not believe. Don't be conclusive. Keep yourself open. And if you want to water something, water your honesty. Grow your honesty, because your honesty will serve you better than forcing yourself, I've got to believe this because I feel guilty without it. My parents taught me this, now I've got to take this on board. And I'm not saying don't listen. I'm not saying challenge just to be challenging. No, you go to the core of the situation, and the core of the situation is something doesn't fit right with me. I will research about it. I will look into it. I will experiment with it, but I will not be conclusive. This is one of the most important things that I believe people who call themselves religious, they're very conclusive. Let me tell you a story that happened to me. When I was in high school, at a certain point, I won't mention what kind of religions I was in contact with at the time, but I was reading about the Big Bang in science, and I remember mentioning that in class when they were talking about creationism and things like that, and I mentioned, and I was ridiculed. I was told like, they don't have proof, science doesn't have proof. And I was just a kid at the time, and then I was even told that if you believe in that, if you believe in the Big Bang, that you are not you're not a believer. You probably end up in hellfire. And it was a bit dramatic for somebody who's exploring life. Funny enough, a few years later, I bumped into this preacher and we had the same conversation. And he was basically, when I mentioned, I said, this about the Big Bang and creationism. We had a bit of a chat, and he said to me, "Oh, the Big Bang doesn't go against religion. In fact, it's in the scriptures, it's this, and there's evidence pointing towards it." And I just remembered my childhood. And I'm like, man, in my head, of course, I didn't tell him that. Out of respect, the guy, he was in his 70s or something. But I'm thinking, hey, there I was years ago, and you were conclusive that if you believe like this, you're in hell. Now you've changed your mind, and you're telling me that it's okay, and there's evidence of it, and blah, blah, blah. So, if there's one thing it made me realize is like, firstly, there is something we call the social religion, and there's something we call pure, or just religiousness as a whole. And those two are very different. Hey, how are you? And those two are very different because one of them is built on social belonging. And social belonging, it's not really about what you're experimenting, what you're going through in your mind. It's more about, this is what the group aligns to, you need to align with them. That's what a social gathering is. Whereas the more personal inner religion, that's different. That's probably a topic of religion that is hardcore into mindset. This is something that's not very much talked about because people are worried about it. Because let's look at real religious people. People like Jesus. He grew up in a social religion, but he had his own. Well, of course, people will go against and say, oh, he had the word of God. All right, whatever you want to call it. But he had something that was not fitting the social standards of the people around him. And so he was alienated. And you could see this religiousness, this rebelliousness in pure religious people. They always had a sense of rebelliousness because they know that the social structure is not conducive to our inner growth. They know where it fits in. We need a social structure to organize society, to organize your cities, to organize all this. But if you start believing that they've done all the work for me, there's nothing for me to do, then you are killing what is essentially inside you. And then your other question about should it take priority? In reality, if you are doing the pure religiousness, the non-lying, the honest one, and you're approaching religion from that point of view, there is no difference between how you attack your mindset work or religiousness. The problem is when you're telling me religion, and it seems from that, because you've mentioned the dilemma, you are talking to me from a social point of view. And you feel like some things that your society, whatever, says doesn't sit well with you. Or you don't agree with it. But you see, it's about a social structure that you don't agree with. And that's fine. Real religiousness says you got to question, you got to be honest, you got to explore, you got to meditate on life. You don't just come up, read a book, and now you have all the answers. Nothing ever worked like that. There's been criminals who have killed in the name of these books. And, you get sometimes, this is something probably lots of you are not going to like this, but there are people who yesterday they were this religion, today they're that religion, and they start preaching and all that. Man, you just became this yesterday. Now suddenly you know everything and you have all the answers. Come on. So here, we don't separate the two if you're talking pure religiousness, because pure religiousness does talk a lot about the inner world that we have. It talks about it in symbolism and in different, obviously there's some that are era dependent in their language because it comes from a different, different world, a different time, and different understandings. Some of them talk about earth, wind and fire. We don't use those words anymore. We have other words. So is there a difference in what you prioritize? You do the same work that goes there and there, and you just be authentic in your approach. Approach whatever you do with authenticity. whether from a religious, mythological point of view, or whether with a scientific point of view, the core of it all is going to point at the same place to make you a better person, someone who's living a better life. I think the takeaway from this is, don't be conclusive. So don't be like, oh, now I know all the truth. The moment you do that, you have fallen into the trap of what they call the ego. It's either you're lying or really deceived yourself in thinking that you have an upper hand on everybody. And the world history tells us no one has upper hand on anybody. If you do, it's only momentary. For a moment in life, don't be conclusive. Is religion and mindset different work? If you're talking social religion, obviously they're not, because in social religion, it's all about conformity. It's a tradition, it's a culture that they're trying to uphold. Where if you go to the pure, the origins, the depth of religion, yeah, definitely they deal with the same thing the mindset does. And you know, in future, we'll look into things like the different religious texts and how they allude to the mind and to the person becoming a better human being overall through their mindset, through discipline, through openness. There's a lot of things, through non-conformity even. And if you like what you're hearing, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Degloirespace signing out.